and welcome to another episode of AWS She Builds North America. I'm Brittany, one of your hosts, and today I am lucky enough to have a guest host with Alicia. I would like to welcome my guest host, Alicia.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here. And we're so excited to be here today to celebrate and spotlight the incredible career journey of Shamsah Hirani, a woman making waves within the tech industry. She is a senior leader at Teradata, and she's here to share her insights and experiences as a woman navigating the tech world.
Awesome. Throughout the episode, we'll get to dive into Shamsah's background, challenges she's faced, and advice that other women in their career for technology may be looking for. Without further ado, I'm going to turn us over and watch my interview with Shamsah and hear a little bit more about her career. Hi, Shamsah. Thank you for joining us today. I'm very excited to get into the conversation with you and kind of hear a little about you and Teradata. So I would love for you to first tell us a little bit about yourself.
Awesome. Thanks, Brittany, and thanks everyone for having me today. I'm super excited to be here. My name is Shamsah Hirani. I'm the AWS Alliance Director here at Teradata. I'm based out of Seattle, Washington, originally from Houston, Texas. But I've been kind of in the partnerships alliances space now for about 8 years. Before coming to Teradata, I was at AWS. And a fun fact is I actually went to college for music. So I played the French horn and scholarship and play my horn, pay for school. And then I did a sales program there where I started working for 3M. I interned for them in field sales. And that was kind of when tech was really starting to boom. And there were a ton of kind of entry-level jobs for sales roles and inside sales roles in tech. So I made the switch from 3M, worked for Microsoft for a while, and then came over to Amazon. Started an Amazon business and then moved over to AWS shortly after that. I spent most of that time at AWS Marketplace. I pretty much did every role you could think of there in the early days of Marketplace. And then professional services, partner sales, and that stuff primed me really well to then come over here to Teradata and run our global alliance.
That's awesome. I love that you have a variety of roles in different companies that you were able to like kind of go towards. And I think it's kind of funny, you don't know this, but I was also in performing arts as well. So I did dance for like 15 years. And was doing that in college as well. So that's a fun little unique thing that we have for the two of us. And I'm curious for our audience, anyone else start in performing arts or the arts before they went into tech? Feel free to tell us in the chat. And as you're telling us in the chat, I would love to hear a little bit more of Teradata and the role it plays in the industry.
Yeah, so Teradata has been around for over 40 years. We're one of the leading data and analytics in the industry. We've been doing this for a really, really long time. Some of these major household names that you know of in all of these industries, financial services, healthcare, life sciences, manufacturing, retail, many of them call themselves Teradata customers. They've been with us for a very, very long time. It's really cool to see kind of this boom in data and analytics and generative AI where people are now starting to kind of talk about these use cases and how they're using analytics to really drive business outcomes and drive these really cool things that you're starting to see in the industry around customer experience and predictive analytics. Teradata has been doing that stuff for a really, really long time. So because we've been around for a long time, we have, a fairly large legacy on-prem business. And the exciting part of my role in being here for the last couple of years is that we're going through a major transformation where we're migrating all of our customers to the cloud and working super closely with AWS to help make that happen. And from a technology perspective, it's been really exciting because our customers are getting to leverage all of these other tools that AWS provides, like SageMaker and Bedrock and things like that, to do stuff that's even, cooler with their data. We're, going through a huge transformation right now. We're rapidly migrating customers, and it's a really exciting time to be here.
Yeah, it is really awesome. I love data analytics. I am one of the rare people that is a true data nerd where I could run macros and everything in Excel. And there's so many tools and advantages out there now with generative AI, especially. What sparked your interest in technology? How did you kind of end up in this area of pursuing your career in this field?
I actually started out of school in manufacturing. I worked for 3M in field sales. And while I was there, I had very specialty customers. So I worked with paper mills and facilities that would print paper for like newspapers and toilet paper and all kinds of things like that. And they were actually going through their own transformation at that time. And they were leveraging technology to figure out how to be more efficient in their own processes. So I think I started to really see that transformation in real time there. And it was really exciting. I, hadn't really considered tech, or I wasn't particularly interested in it before coming into the workforce. But I think that really is what sparked my interest. My first tech role was in inside sales at Microsoft. Tech had been a thing for a long time, but Microsoft was going through their own transformation at that time. Of starting there, I got a really comprehensive view of what the cloud is and how customers are using technology today, and really started to see kind of the rapid increase in the size of customers that we were starting to see. And then coming over to AWS, when I was at Marketplace, there were way fewer, I don't even know in terms of percentage, but we did not have as many ISVs participating in Marketplace. We didn't have as many features, and cloud marketplaces were not really a thing at that time. So it was really cool to kind of come in early stages and then be there during this period of rapid growth. And I think that's what's really kept me interested in tech, is that it's always evolving. And it's growing exponentially.
Which really is. I think that's what most of us get generated into tech for, is because it's constantly evolving. You're never doing the same thing every day. Or if you're doing it every day, it's only for a couple months before something comes out.
Yeah.
As someone who's achieved significant success, what are some of the challenges you faced along the way? And how have you overcome them?
That's a good question. I would say as you go through different phases of your career, you face different challenges. I think kind of up front, the biggest challenge was with a music background. I was trying to get into sales and into tech, and I was able to kind of find these programs in college, like the sales program that I was a part of at University of Houston, that helped give me the knowledge that I needed and helped propel me into a sales role. But then kind of transforming from there and moving into partnerships or operations. I think the biggest thing I had to do was really learn how to advocate for myself. I am a huge believer in the Amazon LP of learn and be curious. So I did a lot of just like taking courses or any sort of like AWS certifications that I could learn, or anything that would show my enthusiasm about tech or about what I was trying to do. And then, the harder stuff after that is like really taking that and advocating for yourself, and making sure that you reach out to the right people, networking, and really trying to find those people within the industry who could be, a coach, a mentor, a champion for you, and help put you in the right rooms and give you the right opportunities. I think that was a huge contributor to my success. I definitely would not have been here if I was just kind of waiting for things to come to me. I think a big thing about this industry too is that it's ultra competitive. There are so many people and everyone is an overachiever. So really trying to set yourself apart and connect with the right people and be an advocate for yourself, I think, is what will help kind of propel you forward.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's really an art to figure out how to advocate for yourself. And I think it does change as you grow, like you said. With that going on, technology is rapidly changing. There's rapid advancements going on, especially with generative AI. How are you staying up with the latest trends and developments?
Yeah, I think the good thing about it is that there's so much content and information out there to be able to educate yourself. So I definitely try to follow as many kind of AI, I don't want to say influencers, but like as many of those like people who are knowledgeable about AI, and try to follow like the courses that they're putting out there. So like Ali Miller and some of these other folks who are really out there who are experts in the field. And then any of these courses, I've taken Khan Academy courses, I've taken courses at AWS on Skill Builder, any of these kind of courses that are being put together and like rapidly evolving so that you can continue to increase your knowledge. That's been great. And then working for a data and analytics company, we have a lot of internal sessions too, to make sure that we're all staying up to speed. So really trying to attend as many of those as I possibly can. It's funny because I was talking to someone the other day and I was like, oh, it'd be really great if we could have an AI expert, in this meeting so that we can talk through some of these use cases. And they were like, well, I mean, you're an AI expert. I'm an AI expert. We're all AI experts at this point because I think we're all still learning. So then, yeah, I think just making sure that you're staying up to date on information, finding good sources of information to find it, and then to be able to go out there and educate yourself.
Yeah, so I'm totally going to go off script for a little bit. Amazon just launched their AI practitioner and machine learning engineering associate You have any interest in getting those?
Yeah, I actually saw the AI practitioner one. I haven't seen the machine learning one, but those, I'm adding them to the list.
The list never stops too, that's for sure. I'm
Right,
actually,
exactly.
I just scheduled my exam for the AI practitioner on Friday the 13th, of September. I took my, what is it, my solutions architect on Friday the 13th too. I'm like, it's just my date that I wind up
It's your
passing.
date. Yeah, I love it.
Get
It's your
over the
lucky-
superstition part, so gotta have
Yeah.
some fun with it.
I love that.
So I know that our viewers always ask this question, so I'm going to get out in front of it and ask it first. So can you share some insights into your typical workday and the strategies you employ to stay focused and productive? With all the technology flying around and all these different fast-paced environments, how are you really staying in that like productive focused mode?
I think in this role, because it's global in scope and there's so much to do, running the partnership from this perspective, there are a million different initiatives going on across the company that relate to AWS, and they all kind of come to me at the end of the day. So I think I really had to learn how to delegate and how to ask for help when I need it. There are a lot of different teams doing a lot of different things. I talked about kind of our migration play. We've also got to play around new logos and going after customers around these generative AI use cases that we're working on with AWS. Building out those programs and making sure that they're ready to go to the field and getting all the right people involved has definitely been a challenge, but I think kind of letting things go and finding people who are willing to do that type of work and grow their own careers, I think has been really valuable to me. And just saying, hey, like, I've got this project, it's kind of a big, hairy beast, and here's kind of how I'm thinking about breaking it up. I could really use some help in driving these initiatives forward. At the end of the day, I think, what I get measured on, what the company gets measured on is how many customers are we migrating? How is this partnership doing? Ultimately, like, what is the health of our partnership with AWS and how are we progressing it? Keeping that as my North Star and then working towards that, whether it's delegating to other people, taking things on myself and prioritizing them, just letting go of things that maybe aren't quite a priority at that time.
It's like the power of saying no, but I recently read an article. I'll have to see if I can find it before we live this. But there was an article of the power of saying no, but doing it quietly. So it's almost like making that prioritized list, but then it's like, this is lower at the list. If I have time, I'll do it. But if I don't have time, it doesn't get to the top. It's really important to double down on asking for help, especially early on in my career. I struggled. I don't know how you did with yours, but I really struggled in the beginning asking for help. And now I'm like the first one to raise my hand and say, hey, can someone help with this? It's a really cool project, but I don't have capacity to do it 100%. Any tips on how to ask for help or how to do it sooner?
This might sound weird, but honestly, practicing is the best way and trying to find the medium where it's the easiest for you. I know for some people, maybe during a meeting where you're talking about something might not be the easiest time to just jump in and say, hey, actually, I need some help with this. If that's a little too intimidating, like working on kind of an email format of here's what we talked about, here's what I can take on, here's where I need some help. Sometimes it's easier. I know for me, like it's way easier to kind of map things out in an email and say, here's what we talked about, here are the things that need to be done. And based on my bandwidth, here's what I can take on, and here's what I need help with. Doing it in a format that you're comfortable with. You don't necessarily have to be the first one in the room to raise your hand and say, I need help with this. If everybody needs help at some point, it's not a sign of weakness. I definitely struggled with it at the beginning too. But you kind of learn as you go in your careers. If you don't ask for help, sometimes you're dropping things. And
I love that too, because you can have time to process it and really see like what you can and cannot do to send that email summary afterwards.
For sure.
That's a really good tip. Moving into more of the mentor space. As a mentor and a role model for aspiring women in tech, what advice would you give someone who's early in their career if they're interested in technology or maybe they're going to school for technology?
Yeah, I love that. I think early on, I was always kind of nervous to add in my 2 cents or to ask questions when I had questions, mostly because I was like, I don't want to look stupid or, I don't want to look silly or like, I don't know what I'm talking about. But truly, you probably don't know what you're talking about in some of these meetings early on, or even when you're interviewing or you're talking to people. Definitely do your research and kind of read what's out there, but there's so much information out there. You're not going to be able to know everything. Being able to ask questions and learn from people, I would say is really critical. Connecting with different types of people, I would say like the diversity and the people that you reach out to as mentors, as role models, as coaches, or just general kind of networking as you build your network. I think by kind of diversifying your network of people and the types of people that you engage with, you'll start to learn about different types of roles that are available and what might be a good fit, and you get different perspectives. So learn, ask a lot of questions, and diversify the types of people that you engage with and build out your network.
Yeah, I have what I call my question buddy at Amazon because I've been here almost 2 years. And it's the person I can ask. Like my favorite question to ask them is actually I ask them a lot about like, what does this acronym mean in this vertical or this space? Because acronyms are the hardest. There are
Yes.
so many different acronyms.
I remember we called them TLAs on Amazon, as 3-letter acronyms.
Yes. And I mean, I came from the financial services area before this. So being in that area, they have even more acronyms and they're totally different than what the tech acronyms are. So it's always one of those things. So definitely asking those questions. Find a question buddy too. I don't know if anybody that's listening out there, throw in the chat if you have a question buddy or not. It was one of the best things I think I've done in my career, especially when I've done my large changes from different industries.
For sure.
I'm going to switch us a little bit. You started mentioning diversity, but I wanted to know if you would like to share your perspective on the importance of diversity and inclusion, equity in the tech industry, and kind of how you've seen it fostered or examples of how people could be doing better for DE&I.
I'm a huge proponent for DE&I, and I think that we're still kind of in a phase where it has to top of mind because there is such a thing as unconscious bias. And I find myself doing it too, right? You meet someone and you click right away because you have a lot of similar perspectives or you have a similar background or, we're both in the performing arts. So I automatically like you and anything you say is right and awesome. So I think we all have kind of these unconscious biases. And having DE&I at the forefront of, being able to make hiring decisions or even taking that into account as you're having meetings about building out some new program or something like that, I think it's so important because everybody brings such a unique perspective. I've definitely seen it in practice where maybe like early on, I'll be in a meeting where everybody in the room is the same and we all kind of get through the thing that we're there to talk about. And we're like, yep, check, great, sounds great. And then we go through with the project and there's something that we all totally missed versus, having a meeting where you're bringing in different people, different types of people, different levels of experience. Even when you bring in someone who's brand new, maybe right out of college and they ask a question and everybody in the room is kind of like, we didn't think about that actually. We thought that was kind of a given or, that wasn't even something we considered. So I think it's so important in decision-making and hiring and building out a really strong work culture and something that's really inclusive of others. So I think it's really important to make people feel inclusive and to help people kind of participate in these as well as just your typical work environment.
The week before us is actually we're talking to Amazon's future engineers and kind of hearing different perspectives of freshmen and sophomores in college, which I love when I get to mentor or learn because mentorship is one of those things that I think DE&I helps with because mentoring someone that's new to the career, and I've been in my career for 15 plus years, it's great to learn differently. Like for instance, my early years was coding.
Yeah.
Their early years is more in Code Whisperer and you have GitHub repositories and all these extra helpful items. And I'm like, I love that I can learn that from others too.
Yes.
So I think that's the other, the learning feature of DE&I and perspective is amazing.
Absolutely.
So I have a hard question for you.
Okay.
And it's, can you share a memorable experience or project that challenged you professionally? And how did you overcome the obstacles that you faced during it?
When I joined this role at Teradata, I definitely felt like I was a little bit over my head. I hadn't run anything globally, and I was kind of the singular point of contact when it came to kind of our global partnership. And like I said, we're kind of in the middle of this huge transformation where we're migrating customers, and there are so many different components to our partnership with AWS. After I joined, I had the opportunity to help negotiate our strategic collaboration agreement and our private pricing agreement with AWS. I don't have a legal background. I don't have, a background in formal negotiations or anything like that. So it was definitely one of those times it was just super overwhelming. I like to be really organized, so my notes were really good. And as we were talking to all the different teams and capturing notes, I was really good about making sure that we had all of that kind of consolidated. And, again, we'll talk about champions and mentors. Luckily, I had some really great people around me who said, hey, you take this opportunity to learn and drive the negotiation. It was overwhelming, but it was also one of the coolest experiences that I've had. Going back to asking for help when you need it or asking for advice, I definitely did a lot of that during that time where we would be prepping for a call to discuss one specific item, or we would be kind of pushing back on something that we wanted and we weren't getting. I would go back to one of my mentors or one of, the more senior people who I work with to say, hey, we kind of ran into this. I've never come across this before. Here's how I'm thinking about it. And I think that's actually really important too, is kind of sharing your perspective, again, for diversity of perspective. Here's how I'm thinking about it. Can you share how you're thinking about it and give me feedback on kind of my thought process? I can't tell you how many types of calls I had around those types of questions. That really is what helped me overcome any of those kind of concerns that I had or self-doubt. I think those types of situations are always going to be difficult, but having things that challenge you and continuing to pursue things that challenge you, and they're definitely intimidating, but facing them head on, that's how you learn. There were definitely some times I fell on my face in that situation, but in the end, I ended up having a really great experience.
Oh, I'm definitely noting it down because I have not done any type of negotiations or contracts, and they are always quite difficult, to say the least, I could imagine, and it's a lengthy process. So definitely going to note that down if I ever have one come up, to see if you can be my mentor for it.
I'm no expert, but I'm happy to help.
Even just to role play it out would be great, because the power of just talking through it, like you're saying in the beginning, is really important. I think especially when it's an important event like that, get the perspectives, talk through what you're going to say. It helps the butterflies go down for sure.
Yes, definitely.
Awesome. Well, I know we are winding down on time. I really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us today, talk through your experiences, and kind of give us some tips and tricks. Any last words before we close out today?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation. I would say, in terms of last words, for everyone who's out there and everyone who's watching as you're starting your career in tech or wherever you are in your career, continue to build those networks and build those partnerships, ask for help, find a mentor, find a champion within the company, right? Find people who are going to help bring you the types of opportunities that you're looking for. You'd be surprised at how many people are actually willing to help build up your career and support you in that. Never be afraid to reach out. At the end of the day, continue to advocate for yourself and remember that you're definitely worthy of being invested in, and there are people out there who want to invest in you. So.
Awesome. Well, I do want to highlight a couple comments that are coming through the interview. So it looks like Tracy and I may need to join study forces, because I guess she's going to be studying for her AWS AI practitioner as well. I don't know, Alicia, if you want to jump on that bandwagon with us, since I know you all podcast together quite often as well. But
yeah, I'll commit with you. It won't be this Friday or next Friday like you, but I'll be there.
I got 1 week on you, so yeah, maybe we can get you in the next quarter as well. But we do have a little surprise, so get your fingers ready to type in some questions, because I would love to let you know that Shamsah is coming back for a live Q&A.
Yes. So welcome, Shamsah, to the live stream.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. So feel free to put in your questions into the chat. As we're waiting for them to get in. I know, Shamsah, we had talked a couple weeks ago when we did the recording. Do you have any idea when you're getting ready for your next AI, we'll call it learning, or have you done any since then?
I have not done any since we talked, but I'm hoping to get at least one more in before reInvent. So It's been crazy around here, so I'm not on your not on your schedule for next week or the week after, but hopefully in the next few weeks.
Awesome. I don't know why I signed up. I guess that was just my date because normally I take a good like 2 solid months. I'm like, no, I'm just going to do this in 4 weeks and get it done. But sometimes we just have to do that, right?
True. You need a deadline.
Yes, I'm really good from working backwards on a deadline. But if you give me open ended, I'm not too motivated. I'm sure there's quite a few of us procrastinators out there. So while we're waiting for questions to come in, Alicia, do you have any questions you want to ask?
I do. Well, first of all, thanks so much because you had a lot of great content in your interview with Brittany, and especially for women in tech and your career journey. So thank you for sharing that. I do have one question that is top of mind for me, which is like, in your experience, what are some of the unique strengths and perspectives that women bring to the tech industry?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. I think kind of going back to that diversity and inclusion conversation that we were having. I think having women in the room, like I think about an industry like healthcare, where we're just now kind of finding out like, oh, all of these studies were, we've only tested these medicines or, these treatments on men. And a lot of the time, I think it's because these industries were they didn't have enough women who were in the room or represented in the room and keeping women top of mind. So I think just bringing that diversity of perspective and making sure that there's enough of us in the room to make sure all of our, all of us are represented, I think is super important. I think women just bring a different perspective. All different types of people bring a different perspective to those, to your organizations, to your teams, and to your companies. So I mean, I think there are a lot of strengths and perspectives that women bring, and I think it's very evident, especially in some of these industries like healthcare.
Awesome. Yeah, so important why we have women training data too.
Absolutely.
It is very important. So it looks like we got another question coming in too. So looking ahead, what are your long-term goals and aspirations, both yourself and for advancing women in the field of technology?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you would have asked me this question 10 years ago, I would have laid out my entire life plan for you. But I think now it's definitely changed. In terms of long-term goals and aspirations, I think the biggest thing for me is just to keep learning and growing. I never would have thought I would have ended up in partnerships and alliances as a career path. So frankly, I'm just trying to broaden my skill set and understand more of what's out there. As the industry changes, I want to make sure that I'm staying, ahead and understanding all of the different industry trends and making sure that I'm staying knowledgeable, and I'm dangerous out there. So, I think for long-term goals and aspirations, it's just keep learning, being flexible with the opportunities that are presented to me, to make sure that I continue to grow and I'm motivated and excited about the work that I'm doing. And I think that in turn helps advance women in the field of technology. I think a lot of women out here are, we're all making sure that we've got a seat at the table and we're, being vocal and we're participating in meetings and taking those leadership roles and making sure that there are people who look like us in the higher ranks. So I think as we, continue to progress our career journeys, we'll, be able to do that for women across the board.
I love that. I love when it's women with women. So that's one of the reasons I was attracted to doing this live stream podcast once joining Amazon. So looks like we got another question coming in for you. And this question is, what is your number one tip for building your network outside of your organization you work in?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, LinkedIn is your best friend. I learned in college kind of just how to reach out to people through LinkedIn. Back then there weren't, LinkedIn Premium and things like that. You could basically just message everybody. So when I was in the sales program, I really took advantage of that. And I think I learned at an early age that people are receptive to that and they want to help you out. They want to help you build your network and introduce you to folks. So I would say leveraging things like LinkedIn when you go to conferences, being social introducing yourself to people, really taking advantage of those opportunities to meet other people, in the industry who may not be, associated with your organization or work with your organization, and then continuing to build it out from there. Anytime I go to like an AWS summit, I always have a goal of meeting 5 new people. And sometimes I'll find myself at 4 p.m. on the day of, and I'm like, I haven't branched out at all or met anybody. So then I think just having that top of mind and then going out there and introducing yourself to people, and making sure that that's something that, is important to you as you attend these events or leverage things like LinkedIn, will really help you and kind of force you to build your network outside your organization.
I love setting that goal. I might have to borrow that at reInvent, because I feel like you get so busy at conferences and you're like, I want to go to this session and that session, and you don't really take the time to like talk to the others around you.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. All right. So I'm just double checking, see if we have any other comments or questions coming in. Oh, we got from earlier, we have someone that was loved the performing arts. And oh, of course, yep. I'm getting the wow, it's almost time for reInvent again. Yes. So we are on the reInvent countdown. reInvent countdown. I can't believe it. Which means the holiday season is right around the corner too. So a little bit crazy there. Awesome. Oh, okay. So any other places other than LinkedIn and conferences that you would suggest?
So there are a lot of kind of like women in tech events. I live in Seattle, so there are a lot of local events that they have that are like specifically meant for networking. There are some that are really specific to women in tech. There are lots of kind of just like AWS happy hours or any other, sort of kind of like events that are made for networking. So I try to take advantage of as many of those as I can. I think it was a lot easier when I was going into an office because you find out about these things organically and you're able to attend those. But I think it's worth seeking those out. I have like a little subscribe button on Eventbrite on networking events in Seattle. So I get notifications to tell me what's going on locally, and anything that sounds interesting, I try to attend. So, really, I know it kind of ties into conferences, but it's kind of outside of that. It's like people who want to be there, and the whole point of the whole event is to network. And I think those are really powerful.
Oh yeah, I just moved from, well, I can't say that. I moved 6 months ago now, but it feels like I just moved. And I just started doing the new subscription to my area, and I'm actually going to, it's called Slow Girls Running Club, where they walk for like a mile or two and then go have brunch. And I'm like, that's like the perfect thing for me. I'm like, I love this.
That sounds amazing.
And it's no girl left behind, which is another thing that I'm like, I love the fact that like you meet up, you walk together, nobody's left behind. It's really a sense of community there. I'm like, and I found it through changing my subscription to the DC area and then getting that back. And I'm like, this is perfect.
I love that. I'll have to see if there's a Seattle chapter.
Yeah, I mean, I'll let you know, but it's everybody that goes says that they love it. So I'm like, I cannot wait. So I know we're wrapping up on time. If there's any other questions, folks, this is your last call to get them into our chat so we can answer them. And yes, so I'm just going to plug reInvent is the first week of December. Registration is open. So if you haven't gone in and done it already, feel free to get in there and get registered. I'm sure we'll be seeing Teradata at the conference as well.
You will. Yes. Please come stop by our booth. We'll be there.
Awesome. All right. It doesn't look like we have many coming in. Alicia, any final questions from you?
I have one question. It's kind of piggybacking off of the networking. A lot of the suggestions you have were maybe focused on in-person. What if someone maybe is more introverted and kind of struggles in that extroverted setting? Do you have any pro tips on what they could try in order to broaden their network if they're more introverted?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I think I think, being able to reach out to people in writing is helpful. So that kind of goes back to LinkedIn. But one thing I did a lot of, like when I was kind of looking for new roles, was reaching out to the folks in my network and asking them if they knew of others who were maybe in similar roles. So I got a ton of email introductions where I could just kind of correspond via email and make sure that I wasn't saying anything silly. And then kind of just getting their background and understanding if it would be a good person to connect with, either on a call or in person if they were local. So I think leveraging your existing network and people that you're comfortable reaching out to and asking them, if they have any other folks in their network who they know, and just kind of trying to expand that way. It's also a little bit less intimidating because you have a common connection there. So I find that that's a really good way to start.
I love that. It's like a warm intro, which is just lovely, as opposed to having to kind of approach someone blind and not really for sure knowing how to start the conversation. Thanks for sharing.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is awesome. So as we wrap up, it's been an incredible conversation with you. I know we got to meet for a little bit twice before this, and then having you back live. I can't thank you enough, Shamsah, for that. I also want to extend my thank you to Alicia. Alicia jumping in last minute. I know that you have your podcast and you run different things over there, but thank you for taking out the time of your day job and then your passion to hang out with us for about 45 minutes. And then in the meantime, if you would like to connect with us, feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. So here is Alicia's LinkedIn and Shamsah's LinkedIn. And feel free to also connect with the AWS She Builds Girls group on LinkedIn. It is a private group. We have, I believe it's 11,000 women connected globally now, which is an amazing network for everybody to get connected with. But with that, this was another episode of AWS She Builds, and we will see you again in 2 weeks. Yeah.